In this video, we are exploring sadness and loneliness, two emotions that can either pull you into isolation or open the door to deep transformation. Whether they keep you stuck or guide you toward emotional depth depends on one thing: how you choose to process them. In the previous video, we tackled guilt and shame, uncovering how these emotions either weigh you down or wake you up. If you haven't watched it yet, make sure to check it out. It will give you powerful insights into breaking free from self-judgment. But today we are diving even deeper, because sadness and loneliness touch something even more personal: our connection to ourselves and the world around us. By the end of this video, you will have the tools to recognize sadness and loneliness for what they truly are, break free from their heaviness, and shift the way they shape your life. You will also be equipped with a simple yet powerful tool, the reset strategy, to help you move through these emotions with more awareness, resilience, and self-compassion. Let's dive into sadness. Imagine this: you wake up one morning and something feels off. Maybe it's the end of a relationship, a friendship that faded, or a dream that didn't turn out the way you hoped. You go through the motions of your day, but there is this heaviness in your chest, this unshakable sense that something is missing. You try to push through it, distract yourself with work, scroll endlessly on your phone, or tell yourself to move on. But no matter what you do, the sadness lingers, like an invisible weight pressing down on you. Sadness shows up when we experience loss, disappointment, or unmet expectations. It is that overwhelming feeling of something slipping away, leaving us raw and exposed. And because it hurts, most of us try to avoid it, numbing it, suppressing it, pretending we are fine. Society often teaches us that sadness is a weakness, something to hide or fix as quickly as possible. But sadness is not the enemy. It's not here to break you. It is here to reveal something profound about who you are and what you truly need. How sadness manifests in your life physically: a heaviness in your chest, as if the weight of the world is pressing down. Fatigue that makes even the simplest tasks feel exhausting. Tears that come unexpectedly or wouldn't stop at all. Your body slows down, urging you to pause, rest, and feel. Psychologically, your mind replays memories, filling your thoughts with regret, what-ifs, and if-onlys. A sense of powerlessness, like life is moving forward but you are stuck in place. Despair creeps in, whispering that things will never change, making the future feel distant and unreachable. It is as if sadness anchors you to the past, making it hard to see a way forward. Emotionally, sadness strips away the layers we built to protect ourselves, leaving us raw and vulnerable. It can trigger frustration, fear, anxiety, loneliness, or even anger, not just at the situation, but at ourselves for feeling this way. It creates a deep longing for connection, for understanding, for something that feels just out of reach. At its core, sadness brings us face to face with the parts of ourselves that need healing the most. But what is the true nature of sadness? Have you ever had one of those moments where sadness just sneaks up on you? Maybe it's after a tough conversation when you realize things will never be the same again. Or maybe it's an old memory resurfacing out of nowhere, bringing a lump to your throat. You tell yourself, I should be over this by now. But there it is, this heavy, undeniable wave of sadness washing over you. Most of us don't like to sit with sadness. We try to shake it off, distract ourselves, or pretend we are fine. But what if sadness wasn't something to escape? What if it was actually trying to tell us something important? Sadness shows up when something we care about shifts, changes, or disappears. It could be the loss of a loved one, a dream that didn't unfold the way we hoped, or even the quiet realization that we are no longer the person we used to be. Think about that for a moment. Why does sadness hurt so much? Because it's connected to things that once brought us joy, meaning, and comfort. The strongest the sadness, the deeper the connection. We wouldn't feel sad if we didn't care. It's like standing in an empty room where laughter used to echo, or flipping through an old photo album and feeling the gap between then and now. Sadness isn't just about what is missing, it's proof of what once mattered. But sadness doesn't just come to remind us of loss. It comes to pause us. That heaviness in your chest, that drop in energy, it is your body and mind slowing you down on purpose. Sadness asks, is something out of alignment? Are you holding on to something you need to release? What is this feeling really trying to show you? We tend to see sadness as something wrong with us, but it's actually the opposite. It's your emotional system waving a flag, saying, hey, something needs your attention. Have you ever ignored sadness only for it to creep up later, stronger and louder? That's because sadness doesn't disappear just because we want it to. It lingers until we listen. And here is something most of us forget. Sadness is one of the most human emotions we have. It connects us in ways happiness never could. It makes us vulnerable, and vulnerability creates authenticity. It helps us understand others, strengthening compassion and empathy. It reminds us that we are not alone because sadness is something everyone experiences. Think about the moment when someone really saw you in your sadness, when they didn't try to fix it or brush it off, but just sat with you in it. That is when sadness transforms. It stops being something isolating and becomes something that connects us at the deepest level. Now, let's get real. Sadness feels like an ending. When you are deep in it, it's hard to see past the heaviness. It feels like the world has stopped moving, like there is no way forward. But here is what I've learned. Some of the biggest transformations happen after sadness. Because when we let go of what was, we create space for what can be. Sadness clears away distractions, helping us focus on what truly matters. It shows us the truth, whether we are ready for it or not. It forces us to feel, and in feeling, we heal. Think about the last time you felt deep sadness. If you look back now, can you see how it changed you? How it made you wiser, stronger, or more aware? Sadness isn't a punishment. It's an invitation to grow. And here is the most beautiful thing about sadness. It's rooted in love. We grieve because we love. We mourn past dreams because they once gave us hope. We feel sad about lost versions of ourselves because they shaped who we are today. If sadness is love in disguise, then maybe it's not the enemy we think it is. Maybe instead of running from sadness, we should ask, what is this trying to show me? Sadness isn't here to break us. It's here to wake us up. It's uncomfortable, yes, but if we stop seeing it as something to fight and instead see it as a guide, we might just find the clarity, healing, and realignment we need. So, the next time sadness knocks on your door, don't slam it shut. Sit with it, listen. You might be surprised at what it has to say. Let's dive into the hidden power of sadness, the message that this often painful emotion holds, if we are brave enough to uncover it. When we feel sadness, it can feel like we are drowning in a sea of discomfort. But under the surface, there is a whole world of clarity and growth waiting for us. So what if sadness wasn't here to break us down, but to lift us up? Here is the hidden message behind sadness and the powerful lessons it brings. Number 1, wake-up call for self-awareness. Imagine you are going through life, caught up in routines, and suddenly you hit a moment of sadness, a loss, a disappointment, or an unexpected change. For a second, it feels like everything stops. But what if that moment of stillness is actually the universe slowing you down on purpose? Sadness is often a wake-up call, an invitation to pause and ask, what truly matters to me? It forces us to tune into ourselves and take stock of what is important. Think about it. When we feel sad, we are not just grieving the loss of something external. We are confronting the values we hold, the relationships that shape us, and our sense of purpose in the world. It is as if sadness holds up a mirror, reflecting the areas in our life where we might not be fully aligned with who we really are. This is a moment for deep reflection, where we are called to get clear on what is important and realign ourselves with our deepest desires. Sadness brings us face to face with the fact that sometimes we are not living in tune with our potential. But that realization is the first step toward transformation. A crisis, a loss, or a painful moment often leads to new opportunities. When something falls away, it can create space for something better to enter. Sadness is like the first crack in the foundation, urging us to rebuild something stronger and more aligned with our true selves. Number 2, an invitation to let go and heal. Sometimes sadness arises from attachment, whether it's to a person, a past version of ourselves, or a situation that no longer serves us. Let's take the example of losing a relationship. The sadness that follows can feel overwhelming, but it's also a powerful invitation. It's asking, are you ready to let go? Sadness is the catalyst that helps us release what no longer serves us, be it toxic relationship, old beliefs, or situation that keeps us stuck in the past. It's an opportunity to heal from past wounds and let go of the baggage that holds us back from moving forward. This letting go isn't easy. It feels like a deep emotional detox. But in that emptiness, something beautiful emerges. For example, when you let go of an unhealthy relationship, you create space for healthier connections in the future. Or when you release the attachment to an old version of yourself, you step into a more empowered, more authentic you. Sadness in this sense is like a sacred invitation to shed old skin, to free yourself from emotional weight, and to open the door to new possibilities. Number 3, a powerful motivator for change. Sometimes the discomfort of sadness is the push we need to make a change. It's like a spark that ignites a fire inside us, urging us to take action. Think about the sadness you might feel when you realize that your career no longer brings you fulfillment. It's that deep, gnawing feeling of being stuck in a place that doesn't honor your true potential. That sadness is actually motivating you to move forward. It challenges you to stop settling for what is safe or comfortable and start striving for what truly lights you up. Maybe it inspires you to take that leap into a completely new career path, or maybe it pushes you to set clearer boundaries and walk away from something that drains you. Sadness is not a roadblock. It's an energy that forces us to look at what needs to change. It gets us out of complacency and into action. The next time sadness hits, instead of feeling like you are being pulled backward, ask yourself, what is this sadness asking me to do? Maybe, just maybe, it's nudging you toward the next step in your life's journey. When you take a step back and look at sadness from this perspective, it stops feeling like something to avoid or push through. Sadness is a doorway, a passageway to deeper self-awareness, healing, and growth. It's your emotional system saying, hey, take a look at what matters to you. Let go of what's not serving you and make the changes that will help you grow. So, next time sadness visits, don't run from it. Lean into it. Listen to what it has to teach you and see it as the powerful motivator it truly is. Sadness is here to help us realign, release, and revitalize if we allow it. And when we do, we emerge from it stronger, wiser, and more in tune with who we are meant to be. Now, let's talk about the flip side of sadness, the emotional depth it brings into our lives. We often think of sadness as something that takes us down, that pulls us into darkness. But what if it's actually the key to unlocking a whole new world of self-awareness and emotional richness? When we experience sadness, it's like being forced into a deep dive within ourselves. Imagine you are floating on the surface of life, going along, distracted by daily routines, but when sadness strikes, it is as if you are pulled beneath the waves. For a while, you might feel lost, overwhelmed, or unsure of your direction. But here's the twist. This process of being submerged in sadness actually leads to greater understanding of who you truly are. Think back to a time when you felt truly sad. Maybe it was a significant loss, a relationship that ended, or a dream that slipped away. In that moment, sadness doesn't just knock on the door. It comes crashing in, demanding your attention, and suddenly you are in a place of deep reflection. It's as if all the distractions fade away and you are left with nothing but your raw, unfiltered emotions. This is when emotional depth begins to form. When sadness arrives, it invites you to explore the depth of your feelings, the vulnerabilities, the unmet needs, and the losses you might not even have fully acknowledged. This is a huge emotional shift. a trauma, if you will, that leaves you with no other option but to question everything. It's in this pain that we often find our way out, by facing it head on. It pushes us to go deep, to ask, what do I really need? What is missing in my life? What do I truly desire? In this way, sadness doesn't just hurt, it transforms us. Emotional depth isn't just about understanding sadness, it's about understanding yourself on a much deeper level. When we embrace sadness, we go on a journey that leads to a greater understanding of who we are and what really matters to us. This journey shapes us, and it gives us the capacity to experience life more fully. People who have gone through sadness or any intense emotional experience often develop a richer, fuller emotional landscape. These individuals can feel more deeply, not just in their pain, but in their joy, love, and connection as well. They develop the ability to savor the small, beautiful moments in life, to notice the nuances others might overlook. Imagine someone who has felt the depth of sadness. Now they can also experience joy with greater intensity, love with more authenticity, and connection with more empathy. Emotional depth is a gift that allows us to see the world in vibrant colors instead of just black and white. But the power of emotional depth doesn't stop at just feeling more deeply, it also cultivates something crucial: resilience. When we go through sadness, we are not just experiencing a passing wave of loss. We are tapping into a much deeper well, our capacity to endure, heal, and grow stronger. This is where emotional resilience comes in. It is the ability to face life's challenges, to process pain, and emerge from it with greater strength. Emotional depth teaches us to ride the waves of life, not just on the surface, but to dive deep and learn from every experience. It's the strength to heal, the courage to rise again, and the wisdom to know that we are capable of weathering any storm. When we embrace sadness, we don't just weather the emotional storm, we learn to navigate it with grace. Over time, this resilience deepens, and we develop the ability to handle life's challenges with a sense of balance and wisdom that we might not have had before. In essence, emotional depth is the fertile soil that sadness helps prepare for new growth. It's the space where our inner strength, our capacity to love, and our ability to experience life in all its emotional richness are nurtured. When we truly embrace sadness, we begin to see the full range of our emotional landscape. We acknowledge the darker emotions, the sadness, the pain, the fear, but we also make room for the lighter, more joyful emotions that naturally follow. So, what sadness gives us isn't just pain, it's the ability to experience life more fully. It's the emotional depth that allows us to appreciate beauty in the ordinary, to connect with others on a deeper level, and to navigate life with the resilience to face whatever comes our way. When we transform sadness into emotional depth, we become more emotionally available, self-aware, and resilient. We are no longer afraid to feel deeply because we know that every emotion we experience is a stepping stone toward greater growth, wisdom, and connection. Sadness in its truest form isn't a burden. It's a gateway to a life lived with awareness, empathy, and the courage to embrace the full spectrum of what it means to be a human. Let's dive into how to reset sadness into emotional depth. R. Recognize the sadness. The first step is to pause and acknowledge what you are feeling. It might sound simple, but so often we rush past sadness, pushing it away because we don't want to feel the pain. But the key here is to be present with it. Take a moment to notice how sadness is showing up in your body, mind, and emotions. Maybe your chest feels tight, your thoughts are clouded, or you find yourself avoiding something. Don't judge or try to fix it right away. Just recognize that sadness is here and give yourself permission to feel it. E. Explore the source. Next, it's time to dig deeper. Sadness often has roots. Something triggered it. Maybe it's related to a specific event, a past loss, or an expectation that wasn't met. Ask yourself, what exactly triggered this sadness? Is there an event or person involved? Sometimes sadness can also stem from thought patterns or beliefs that amplify the emotional wave. Are there any repeating thoughts that come up, like I'm not good enough or I will never be happy again? The goal here is to understand the source of your sadness, which can help you separate what is real from what is an emotional overreaction. By doing this, you will get more clarity on what is actually happening. S. Shift the perspective. Now let's reframe the narrative. Sadness often comes with the story that tells us we are stuck, lost, or things will never get better. But what if you could shift that story into something more empowering? Instead of thinking, I'm lost and nothing will get better, try asking, what is this sadness trying to teach me? What does this sadness say about what I value? What part of me is asking for attention? What can I learn from this sadness that I wouldn't have learned without it? By approaching sadness with curiosity instead of judgment, you allow yourself to uncover the lessons hidden within the pain. This shift in perspective turns sadness from something to avoid into something you can learn from. E. Embrace depth. Sadness is a doorway to emotional depth. It's a chance to reflect and grow. Remind yourself that this moment is not a failure, it's a moment of growth. Try repeating affirmations like, this is a moment of growth, not failure. I can treat myself with kindness even in my pain. Things happen for me, not to me. Circumstances don't matter. What matters is how I choose to respond. And I choose to get the most out of this. I choose to be more grateful, more present, more me. As you embrace sadness, allow yourself to feel the emotion fully, without resistance. Remind yourself that you are worthy of compassion even in your pain. And behind every sad moment, there is wisdom that can guide you, and it can also serve others. T. Take action. Lastly, take action. Sadness doesn't have to leave you stuck. It's a sign that something within you needs attention. To honor that, you must do something to nurture yourself. Start with small steps. Maybe it's journaling about your feelings, reaching out to a trusted friend, taking a walk in nature, or simply practicing self-care. The key is to act in a way that shows you are committed to self-compassion and emotional depth. Ask yourself, what does my sadness need right now? How can I show up for myself in this moment? By taking action, you are showing your sadness that you are ready to move through it. You are honoring the process of transformation that sadness is offering. Sadness isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of something much deeper. It's a powerful catalyst for emotional depth, resilience, and growth. By using the reset method, you are turning sadness into an opportunity to reflect, learn, and embrace life with a fuller range of emotions. Remember, sadness can teach you things that happiness never could. It's a reminder that feeling deeply is what makes you human, and embracing it fully is what allows you to thrive. Now, let's move to loneliness. Imagine this: you are in a room full of people, maybe at a party or even at work, surrounded by conversations and laughters. But despite being in the middle of it all, something feels off. It's as if there is an invisible wall between you and everyone else. You try to join in, but somehow you feel disconnected, like you are on the outside looking in. You might even find yourself thinking, how is it possible to feel so alone when I'm surrounded by people? That feeling, that ache in your chest, is loneliness showing up in its most subtle form. It's more than just being physically alone. It's the feeling of emotional disconnection, of not truly being seen or understood by others. It's like your heart is reaching out, but no one can feel it. How loneliness shows up physically. You feel a heaviness in your chest or a tightness in your throat, almost like a physical weight you cannot shake off. You may feel a deep exhaustion, even if you've just waken up, or a sense of lethargy that makes everything feel harder to do. It's as if your body is responding to the emotional disconnection, urging you to seek comfort, but it's just out of reach. Psychologically, loneliness creates a swirl of negative thoughts. You may start to question yourself, what is wrong with me? Why doesn't anyone care? Your mind might replay moments of rejection or isolation, thinking that you are somehow less worthy of connection. It can trigger feelings of self-doubt, and you may even find yourself longing for a sense of belonging, only to feel more frustrated as time passes. It's as if your thoughts are echoing the absence of connection. Emotionally, it can bring up sadness and longing for the connections that feel out of reach. You might feel isolated even when you are surrounded by people, and that isolation might fuel feelings of unworthiness or invisibility. You might also experience a sense of emptiness, as if a part of you is missing and you can't fill the gap, no matter what you do. There is often a deep yearning for emotional intimacy, for someone to truly understand what you are feeling and be there in a way that goes beyond the surface. This is the essence of loneliness. It's not just about being physically alone, but feeling disconnected on a much deeper level. It's an emotional state that urges us to question, what do I truly need? Where is the connection that will make me feel whole again? What is the true nature of loneliness? Why it shows up and where it comes from? Loneliness often appears when there is a disconnect, not just from others, but from ourselves. It's a deep emotional signal that something is out of alignment in our lives. At its core, loneliness emerges when our basic human need for connection isn't being met. And this isn't just about physical closeness or being surrounded by people. We can feel profoundly alone in a crowd if those around us don't truly understand us or if we are not being our authentic selves with them. But loneliness isn't simply about feeling unconnected to others. It often arises when we feel disconnected from ourselves too. It's as if we've lost touch with our true needs, desires, or purpose. Maybe we are stuck in situations where we are not expressing who we truly are, or we are denying parts of ourselves in the hope of fitting in or being accepted. In these moments, loneliness becomes an invitation to reconnect with our authentic selves and acknowledge that we are not being true to our inner needs. Where does loneliness come from? Loneliness doesn't just show up randomly. It usually comes from a gap between our expectations and reality. We might expect to have deep, meaningful connections with others, but when these expectations aren't met, loneliness creeps in. It can be triggered by the loss of a close relationship, a change in life circumstances, or even by living in a society that prizes superficial connections over genuine ones. Sometimes, loneliness arrives when we are stuck in unfulfilling environments, whether it's a job, a friendship, or even within our family. These environments can make us feel isolated, as if we are not truly seen or valued. And this feeling can be intensified when we feel unseen or misunderstood in our relationships. Loneliness can also surface when we experience a transition, whether it's moving to a new city, losing a job, or shifting away from old habits or friends. These transitions forces us to reassess who we are and where we belong. In these moments of change, loneliness shows up as a signal that reconnection is needed either with ourselves or with those around us. But what is it trying to teach us? Loneliness isn't a punishment. It's not a sign that we are broken or unworthy. Instead, it's an invitation, a call to turn inward and check in with ourselves. Its essence lies in this. Loneliness is a messenger that highlights where we need more authentic connection in our lives. This could be connection with others, but more importantly, it's a call to reconnect with ourselves, to honor our true desires, our real needs, and the parts of us that have been neglected or suppressed. It's like a gentle tug reminding us that we are worthy of meaningful connections, the kind that go beyond surface-level interactions. It's about embracing our own values and understanding that we don't need to settle for superficial connections. True intimacy, whether with ourselves or others, requires authenticity, vulnerability, and alignment with who we are at our core. To sum up, loneliness shows up when we are disconnected from what matters most, our true selves and our authentic relationships. It's a powerful signal to pause and assess what is missing, what we are longing for, and what needs realignment in our lives. It's an invitation to make room for genuine connection, both with ourselves and with others. The hidden power of loneliness, unlocking self-awareness and authenticity. Loneliness is often feared and misunderstood, but beneath its surface lies a profound invitation to rediscover our essence. It's a call to explore the quiet spaces within us where the noise of the world has drowned out our own voice. It invites us to ask the questions we often avoid. Who am I truly? What do I need at my core? What does my heart desire, free from external influence? Loneliness is a mirror, reflecting back the parts of ourselves we may have neglected, dismissed, or even forgotten in the hustle to fit into societal molds. It's a reminder that before we can show up fully for others, we need to be deeply connected with ourselves. The power of loneliness lies in its ability to strip away the distractions and expectations, leaving only what is essential, our authentic self. In this space, loneliness teaches us that solitude is not isolation. It's a powerful form of self-care and self-discovery. When we embrace loneliness as an opportunity for reflection, we begin to reevaluate everything that feels disconnected or off. Instead of trying to fit into the world, we shift to the realization that the world can fit with us. We no longer seek validation from others, but from within. Loneliness is a call for authenticity. It gently nudges us to check if we are truly being ourselves or if we've become a version of ourselves that tries to please others or meet external expectations. How often do we mold ourselves to fit into others' words, sacrificing our true identity in the process? Loneliness asks us to stop and look inward, to identify and honor our own values, needs, and desires. This is the moment when we shed the false layers and reconnect with the person we were always meant to be. There is a powerful freedom in embracing our true self. Loneliness creates the space to embrace who we are without apologies. We may find that in the process, some relationships or environments no longer align with our true self, and that's okay. The people who resonate with our authentic energy will remain, while others may fade. This is a natural, liberating process of letting go of what no longer serves us. Loneliness also cultivates clarity and direction. When we are constantly surrounded by others, it's easy to lose sight of what we truly want and need. Loneliness, however, creates the perfect opportunity to tune in and hear our own heart. In this silence, we can connect with our deepest desires and make decisions that are truly aligned with our core, rather than following external influences or societal pressures. And here is the most beautiful part. Loneliness helps us embrace independence. It teaches us that we do not need the approval or validation of others to feel complete. True connection begins within, and as we learn to be comfortable in our own company, we discover a deeper sense of self-love and self-acceptance. From this place of self-sufficiency, we can show up more fully in our relationships with others, no longer seeking to fill an inner void, but offering love and connection from a place of wholeness. Loneliness also has the unique power to enhance our creativity and inner peace. When we are distracted by external noise, we have the space to tap into our creativity. We begin to see new possibilities, think outside the box, and reconnect with passions we may have left behind. Moreover, the stillness of loneliness provides the perfect environment for cultivating inner peace away from the chaos of daily life. It's in this peaceful solitude that we can reflect, meditate, and restore our mental and emotional balance. Ultimately, the power of loneliness lies in its ability to transform us from the inside out. It invites us to embrace ourselves fully, flaws and all, and reminds us that we are worthy of love, not for what we do or how we are perceived, but for simply being who we are. When we can love ourselves in our solitude, we can then truly share our love and light with the world around us. So, before we jump into the practical reset method for loneliness, take a moment. Think back to a time when you felt lonely, perhaps even right now as you are watching this, and ask yourself, what was that loneliness trying to tell you? Was it a signal for you to stop looking outside for validation and turn inward? To question who you are truly being versus who you are trying to please? To check if you are living in alignment with your own values or if you are just fitting into someone else's world? This reflection is key because loneliness at its core isn't about being without people, it's about being without ourselves. Once we understand that, we can use the reset method to move through loneliness and tap into the powerful connection to our authentic selves. It's time to start using loneliness not as something to avoid, but as something to embrace. Now let's walk through the reset method for transforming loneliness into deeper connection and authenticity. R. Recognize the loneliness. Start by recognizing that loneliness is not just the absence of people, it's the absence of connection with yourself. How does it show up in your body, your mind, and your heart? Do you feel a tightness in your chest, a heaviness in your thoughts, or perhaps a feeling of emptiness, don't rush to escape it. Just observe, feel it. Let it be present without judgment. E. Explore the source. Now we move deeper. Take a moment to reflect on why this loneliness is showing up for you. Loneliness often comes when there is something unmet in our emotional or spiritual needs. What triggered your loneliness? Was it a specific situation, a loss, or a sense of not being understood or connected with others? Is there a pattern? Do you feel alone even when surrounded by people? This may indicate a deeper disconnection from yourself or your values. Ask, is this loneliness a message that you are not fully honoring yourself? Sometimes we try to fit in with others, adapt to what society expects, and forget what we truly need or want. Are you conforming to an identity that isn't truly yours? Sometimes we are lonely because we've disconnected from who we really are, trying to meet others' expectations or following a path that isn't aligned with our authentic self. Take time to really sit with these questions. Your loneliness might be inviting you to go back to basics, to ask, who am I when I'm not trying to fit into someone else's world? Am I living according to my own values and needs, or am I simply trying to please others? The goal here is to create clarity. You may find that your loneliness is not a random feeling. It's a signal, a powerful message telling you it's time to reconnect with yourself. S. Shift the perspective. Now that you've explored the source of your loneliness, it's time to shift how you view it. This is the moment to change the narrative and see loneliness not as something to avoid or fear, but as a powerful tool for self-discovery and personal growth. From isolation to connection. Rather than seeing loneliness as a sign of being abandoned or unworthy, ask yourself, how is this loneliness inviting me to reconnect with myself? This feeling might be nudging you to slow down, create space, and tune into your deeper needs and desires. Shift from external validation to internal alignment. Ask yourself, am I trying to meet the expectations of others, or am I being true to myself? Loneliness is often the result of living outside our core values. It's an invitation to return to what truly matters to us. From desperation to self-discovery. Instead of trying to fill the emptiness with external distractions or relationships, embrace this as an opportunity for self-reflection. Ask, what can I learn about myself in this space of solitude? Use this time to redefine your identity and values. From fear to freedom. Sometimes loneliness can feel like a heavy burden. However, when we reframe it, we can see it as freedom. The freedom to be fully ourselves without the pressure of fitting into external expectations. Ask yourself, how can this loneliness give me the freedom to be unapologetically me? By shifting the perspective in this way, loneliness becomes a transformative force. Instead of resisting it, you can welcome it as an invitation to step into a fuller, truer version of yourself. E. Embrace loneliness. Loneliness, when embraced, becomes a powerful tool for self-discovery and growth. The key here is to acknowledge and accept the emotion without judgment or the need to escape from it. This is the moment where you allow yourself to feel the depth of your loneliness, knowing that it's not a permanent state but a transformative experience. Accept the pain, don't avoid it. Loneliness often feels uncomfortable, like an emotional ache, but instead of pushing it away, allow yourself to feel it fully. Remind yourself that it's okay to feel lonely. This is a temporary experience, and it's okay to experience this pain right now. You are not broken. You are simply learning to reconnect. Treat yourself with compassion. Instead of berating yourself for feeling lonely or judging yourself for not having it all together, be kind to yourself. Recognize that loneliness is not a flaw or weakness. It's simply an invitation to go inward and realign with your core self. I am worthy of my own time and attention even when I feel lonely. Find beauty in solitude. Embrace the quiet that comes with loneliness. It's not an empty void. It's a sacred space to cultivate self-love, creativity, and clarity. In this solitude, I can reflect on who I truly am. I am not defined by others' opinions or expectations. I am enough just as I am. Allow growth to happen. Loneliness isn't a punishment. It's a fertile ground for personal growth. When you embrace it, you allow space for new insights and opportunities to emerge. I'm allowing myself to grow in this moment. I trust that loneliness is leading me to a deeper understanding of who I am and what I truly need. When you embrace loneliness like this, it no longer feels like an enemy to avoid. Instead, it becomes a companion that is guiding you toward a deeper connection with yourself. The key is to trust the process and know that even in your loneliest moments, you are not lost. You are finding your way back to yourself. You are becoming whole. Finally, T, take action. This is about showing up for yourself, even in the midst of loneliness. It's about proving to yourself that you can take intentional steps toward reconnecting with who you are and what you need. Here is how you can turn loneliness into positive action. Create space for reflection. Loneliness can feel isolating, but it can also be an opportunity for reflection. Set aside time to be with yourself, whether that is through journaling, meditating, or simply sitting quietly in nature. Ask yourself questions like, what part of me feels disconnected right now? What do I need to feel more aligned with my true self? Invest in your passions. Loneliness often occurs when we aren't giving ourselves the time or space to pursue what truly excites us. Use this time to rediscover hobbies or passions that make you feel alive. Whether it's painting, writing, dancing, or something else, make time for it. When you nurture your passions, you start reconnecting with your authentic self. Reach out in aligned ways. Loneliness doesn't mean you have to stay isolated. Reach out to people who align with your core values. It's not about filling the void with any external connection, but fostering relationships that truly reflect who you are. I will not settle for shallow connections. I will seek out those who resonate with my truth. Set healthy boundaries. If you are feeling lonely because you've been spreading yourself too thin or trying to meet everyone's expectations, use this moment to set boundaries. Saying no to what doesn't serve you creates space for meaningful connections and self-empowerment. Create rituals for self-connection. Loneliness is often a sign that we need more self-love and care. Start creating daily rituals to nurture yourself. Whether it's a morning routine of gratitude and meditation or an evening routine of journaling and reflection, these small acts of self-care reinforce your connection to your true self. Taking action here is about choosing to honor yourself and your journey. Instead of running from loneliness or trying to escape it, you actively use it to build a deeper, more meaningful relationship with yourself. Each step you take in these moments shows your commitment to your own growth and authenticity. Sadness and loneliness are often seen as burdens, emotions that we try to avoid or push away. But in truth, they are invitations to a deeper understanding of ourselves. They show us where we are disconnected, where we've been neglecting our own needs, and where we are not living in alignment with our true selves. Instead of allowing these emotions to overwhelm you, see them as messengers, guiding you toward a greater connection with your own heart, your own desires, and your own authenticity. The beauty of emotions like sadness and loneliness is that they are not here to defeat us, but to deepen our emotional landscape. They offer us the chance to reflect, to question, and to reconnect. By embracing these emotions and using the reset framework, you can transform sadness into emotional depth and loneliness into holiness, to unapologetically embrace your true self. So I challenge you, when sadness and loneliness arise, don't run from them. Recognize them, explore their source, shift your perspective, and embrace the growth they offer. Take action in small, intentional ways to honor your journey, and let these emotions guide you back to yourself. You have the power to reshape your experience. Loneliness can lead to connection with your true self, and sadness can cultivate resilience and depth. When you allow these emotions to flow and transform, you are stepping into a more authentic, empowered version of yourself. Thank you for joining me in this transformative conversation. In the next video, we will dive into jealousy and envy, exploring how these emotions can reveal the parts of us that yearn for growth and fulfillment. So stay tuned and don't forget to explore the full playlist to deepen your emotional awareness. Remember, you are not just reacting to life's emotions. You are learning from them, growing through them, and becoming more of who you are meant to be. Much love, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.